now, man.
Oh God,
It's empty.
Corona.
Fuck.
Still going.
You gotta get... Are we live?
Oh God, we're getting there. Hopefully. Still going.
Are we live?
There we go.
Is that me echoing? Who's that
Oh
going?
God, I certainly hope so. I hope it wasn't me being an idiot.
I don't think I have the show pulled up.
No, it was me being stupid.
Oh, okay.
Oh God, what's up, guys, ladies and gents? Sorry, we're exactly an hour and 3 minutes late because Steven had some work things. I had a couple of shrimp tacos to devour, so yeah, we pushed it back to 9 because we got 3 phenomenal movies that we're going to talk about tonight that I had never seen. So Steven suggested, "Hey, you got to see these fucking movies," and those movies are the John Wick trilogy.
Soon to be a quadrology.
In 2021.
2022, they pushed it back.
Did they?
Because of the Rona.
Jesus.
Yeah, for real. Thanks, Obama.
I don't really think he had anything to do with it, but
yeah. You can't convince me otherwise.
Yeah. Thanks, Corona. So, yeah. Why is everybody's name green in chat? You know,
welcome to all our new members.
Well, that's not an option, so.
Well, fucking should be after this fucking show.
Yeah.
This is going to be the greatest two guys in a trailer episode of all times. Tonight's show, we would both give a 5 out of 5, and we haven't even seen it yet.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. So, let's get into this.
Let's do it.
John Wick, the original, or as I like to call him, JW. I think me and him have a kind of personal friendship now.
He's a good dude.
Great guy. Great guy.
So,
very full of conviction.
Full of conviction. A man of drive.
Focus.
John Wick came out in 2014.
Okay.
I have the wrong article pulled up. Give me a second.
I mean,
all right.
We've never done this one before, so
I've got it. All right. Starring Keanu motherfucking Reeves.
Yep. Our Lord and Savior.
Directed by Chad Stahelski, I think.
Stahelski sounds good enough to me.
Sounds good to me. It was released in 2014. Runtime of 101 minutes. Budget of 20 to 30 million. Box office return of 86 million. So, a resounding financial success. And if you look at the critical reception, Rotten Tomatoes has it at 87% positive reviews with an average rating of 6.95 out of 10. Yeah.
It's a little low.
And I guess that's really, I don't see the IMDb one. So that's the only one we'll have to go by. But that seems a bit low.
A lot low.
Yeah.
Like minimum 3 points low.
So, what were your thoughts on the first John Wick movie? What did you think?
So, I watched them in order, as you should with any series like this. And part 1 grabbed my attention. It gave you just enough backstory to know why he was pissed off. I didn't quite understand the dog angle, the puppy. But I do have dogs of my own. And I'm pretty sure if somebody killed one of my dogs, I would go seeking some fucking revenge as well. I don't know that I exactly have the same skill set as Mr. Wick, but I'm not saying that I don't. I probably do have it somewhere in the matrix, as it were. But yeah, I thought it was a really good movie. I thought it was a really good action uh, action movie. You know what? I knew I was gonna like it as soon as I saw the fucking Russian guy smoking a cigarette at the gas station. I was like, that he's gonna fuck them up.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for him to fuck him up at the gas station.
Yeah. There's that little bit of tension that kind of slowly, especially when the guy starts speaking Russian and says like everything has a price, bitch, and he talks back and says not
Yeah.
this or whatever. Like, yeah,
So I thought it was a really good opener. I don't think it was as good of a standalone movie as it was a building block for the other two movies.
I think if anything, that's probably the main criticism that gets lobbed at the original is that it did have to focus more on building the world,
Yeah.
right? Like it has to set up certain uh, certain scenarios and certain things that you realize, okay, so in this world, things operate a little bit differently, right? It has to do a lot of that world building, and it also obviously has to introduce the character of John Wick.
Yeah.
So it where 2 and 3 are more able to just go balls to the wall with the action. One has its fair share of action; it has plenty of it. It's just it also has large swaths of the movie where it's just character building or setting up the world,
Yeah.
building the narrative, right? So I can understand that argument. The one thing I think that the first movie has over the other two is the fucking soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
The first movie, the soundtrack is on point.
Yeah.
Like it has that Manson song, "Killing Strangers,"
Yep.
that plays like throughout the movie, and it's usually just that fucking nice guitar riff,
Yeah.
and then it kind of slowly more of the song plays as the movie goes on. And then there's that cool like it goes from Manson to like this electronic song when they're in the club.
Yeah.
And you know it goes to that, and then it goes to like an almost electronic like dubsteppy type fucking song in the same club. So it transitions and then it goes back. I just really enjoy the soundtrack in this movie. The fight scenes, the choreography, fucking. There's a YouTube clip where Keanu Reeves, it's like behind the scenes. It's either for John Wick or John Wick 2. I can't remember. But it shows all the training that he did. And like he legitimately trained in judo. He trained in jujitsu. He did training with
weapons,
firearms, tactical, yeah, all that shit. Like he did all of that. So that's why it looks so real, is because it fucking is. You know, he took the time to actually learn what he was doing, and that is why. What day did we talk? Was that today? When we talked on the phone, was that today?
Yes.
Okay, and you made the comparison to Mission Impossible, right? You compared John Wick, the trilogy, to Mission Impossible, and I think it's a really interesting comparison to make because in these movies, Tom Cruise and Keanu Reeves both take a really similar approach.
Yeah.
Right? They go hands on. They learn what it is that the character is supposed to be able to do. That way it actually looks legit on screen.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, there's, when you have movies like this where people are handling hand-to-hand combat scenarios and handling guns, especially with guns, dude. Gun people are legit the most hardest criticism you're going to get in an action movie, because it's like, oh, well, you would never use a fucking Benelli M4 for goddamn wide open shooting in a fucking big giant room like that. You'd use it in a hallway. It's like, no, he used the Benelli where it's supposed to be used. He used a 12 gauge where he needed a 12 gauge. He knew how to manipulate the guns when he's doing his little inspections and all of that shit and checking everything. He was doing what he was supposed to do. The problem I have with some of the weapons handling is he seemed to, you know, pull the slide back to check and make sure there was a round in the chamber. Like, if you know what you're doing so much, you don't have to worry. If you did it right, there's a fucking round in the chamber.
Yeah.
You know, so it was maybe a little bit of a over dramatization for some of the stuff.
More stylized.
Yeah, but that's neither here nor there. He's also playing a fucking assassin in a world full of assassins. I don't know how that works out, but
also I believe it's during I want to say the church scene where he confronts that guy and then they kill the priest and then he kind of charges him and starts shooting at him and shit. And he has a gun on a sling and then he also has his handgun and he switches between the two, right? He switches between the two and it's not overly stylized in any way. Like, it's a legitimate swap. Like, he has the one, he throws it behind his back on the sling, he grabs his handgun and he goes to continue, right? Clears out the close quarters, holsters it back, goes to grab his rifle back. And it looks legit.
Yeah.
Like,
it's because he went through the training process to be able to do that.
Exactly. And it's just, it pays off. I mean, it lends such a credibility to what you're seeing. Like, if they're actually doing what you're seeing, you know, it just makes it more believable, which I think you kind of have to have in these movies. An action movie where you don't believe any of the, like, if you don't believe the actor is capable of doing those things, it really takes you out of the fucking movie.
Well, and also another thing that always irritates me about action movies they were very mindful in this entire series to make sure didn't happen is these guns run out of ammo. There were several times throughout the entire franchise so far that he's pulled the trigger and there's nothing there. Right. So he's had to slide it off to the side, go to his sidearm, and boom, 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 boom. And he does what would come natural to most people that have been trained in close quarters combat is like, I just shot this dude and took his weapon. I also need to check his belt for an extra magazine.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm boom, boom, boom. Shit, this one's out. Throw that away. Give me this one and this. And then going about your business. But he ran out of ammo. And I was like, yes, finally a movie that doesn't have these magical guns that have 9,000 bullets in them.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't happen. He had the side-by-side stacked magazines for his AR-15 where he could pop one out, pop the next one back in, and keep on going. But he was constantly throwing away mags and picking up shit off of dead people. Like, that's how you would do it. How do you stay replenished with ammo? Well, you just killed 47 guys with guns. There's 47 guns right there.
Yeah, exactly. He's constantly cycling through.
Yeah.
What did you like the mix of, like, the jiu-jitsu and gunplay at the same, like, how did you feel about that? Because it's kind of polarizing to some people.
It was a little bit more prevalent in part 2.
Yeah.
I think it was, they had a bunch of pretty extended scenes where it was just hand-to-hand combat, like when they were in the knife store. That may have been part 3. But
the knife store is part 3.
Okay, so even into, well, what's weird about these movies is the number 2 picks up where number 1, like, the minute it drops off, it goes into number 2, and number 2 takes place literally a minute after you see him in part 3, or the next minute is starting in part 3. So,
right.
It's hard to keep track, but that the hand-to-hand combat, you could tell he had some sort of fucking training.
Yeah, because I mean the judo. I mean, obviously some of the moves are, stylized, right? They're made because they look good in a movie.
Yeah.
But a lot of the like judo throws and stuff that he did, they're all legit. A lot of the holds that he did were legit. There was a lot of legit jujitsu. So I mean, a lot of that shit was real. It was just
Well, I wouldn't say stylized for the movie. I would say they tended to stick with, uh, like I was telling you, the shoulder toss, right?
right.
They went with that, and I think the reason that he used that move so much is because it does look good on camera. If they've got the camera set low and back away from the fight, and he flips somebody, you see their legs flail over, their body hits the ground, their legs follow behind. So yeah, it would be something that you would use for the movie that you may not use so much in real life. Now, the fact that he would drop them to the ground, roll them into an armbar, and break their arm in half, that's how you're supposed to perform. That's how you kind of roll into using that in a practical application in a fight scenario. You're talking a street fight where there is no judge, there's no tap outs, none of that shit. You throw somebody on the ground, you try to break something, just like I've told my kids. Somebody gets you, you grab anything. It doesn't matter if they're pinky, their fucking ear, the hook a finger in their lip. If you make something bend in a direction that it's not supposed to bend, it's going to hurt like hell, and people are going to think about what they're doing. So the fact that he would shoulder toss somebody, jump on the ground, snap their arm in reverse. Now this dude's over here like this. He's out of the fight. He's
yeah, but then he didn't stop there. He'd fucking grab a gun and shoot him.
Exactly.
Well, I
mean, that's how do you make sure they don't come back after you?
Yeah.
Put a fucking bullet in their skull.
So the first one establishes, like I said, it establishes a lot of like the world building.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think before you saw part 2 and part 3? Like the coins, and when he dispatches of all the guys that get sent to kill him in his house, he kills them all, and then the cop shows up and is like, "You working again?" No, just sorting some stuff out, and then he fucking leaves. Like, were you intrigued by it? Were you like, what the fuck is going on?
When when he goes in there and busts open the floor and opens the box and there's all these gold coins stacked up, I'm like, okay, homie's got a nice little stash pile here. And then he pulls the thing out and there's another tray of gold coins. I'm like, where the fuck is what? I didn't understand the significance of the coins. And for the most part, I didn't even, I looked at it as this is currency of a certain amount. I didn't look any deeper into it. I didn't really fucking think about it very much. I just assumed if you had that coin, you knew what the deal was, right? You knew that whatever service you were providing for the person that holds that coin, that debt's taken care of.
Right.
One of those type deals. So I didn't really put much thought into it. I thought that it was cool that they used something other than, a fucking boring ass wire transfer. Here, let me fucking PayPal you, $20,000 to go off this motherfucker. Like, no, I'll give you 10 gold coins.
Yeah. And
okay.
That's the directors, they did like a Q&A or whatever. And the people asked, like, is it a currency or like, what is it? Like, is it a dollar amount? What is the gold coin? And he was like, we always just looked at it as like it was a favor that you had earned, right? So each time you performed a service or something, you either received or you gave a gold coin, and that was like it's almost like a bartering type system, which is really fucking cool because, like you said, usually in these movies it's like, oh, kill this guy for $100,000 or whatever. Yeah. And it's all the same shit. So it's just a unique way to get across the same point, really.
Yeah, it's a different form of currency. It's the assassin's currency.
Yeah. So,
and in part 3, they did kind of go into the fact that they are solid gold, that they were minted, in each one of the places. So I mean, they do have intrinsic value as well.
Right.
So, it could be, somebody's worth their weight in gold, so you give them, a big ass gold coin.
Yeah.
Whatever the case is. And judging by the size of those coins, I'd say that's probably about a 3.5, maybe even 4 ounce coin. So you're looking at $5K per coin, you know.
Yeah.
So I
So
don't know. I thought it was pretty dope.
first John Wick movie.
Yep.
What would you give it?
The first one, because it was more of a building block, I'm gonna go with a 4 on that one. I think it had enough. It had enough action and it had enough draw you in power to where at the end of the movie I was sitting there going, okay, I got to see what's next, and I just rolled straight into the second one with no problem. So I'm gonna go with a 4 on that one.
Okay. That's actually what I would give it as well, a 4.
Okay, so we got an 8 total on John Wick 1. So 2, right, which is my personal favorite out of the franchise. I think it was 2, then 3, then 1 is the way I would the way I would classify them if we were ranking them so
And
far.
we're a little different on that,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll get into that. So part 2 came out in 2017, directed by the same person, starring the same people, runtime of 122 minutes, had a budget of $40 million, and at the box office, it brought in $171.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
So even more of a
Of a
financial success.
Yeah.
And if you look at the critical responses, it has on Rotten Tomatoes a 89% approval rating with an average rating of 7.3 out of 10.
Again, a little light.
Yeah, I would say so. It's so weird to me that movies like this are very rarely like an overwhelming critical success.
Yeah.
You know, they're kind of looked at in the same realm as like comedies.
Yeah.
You know, like there are certain just I guess genres of film that don't translate to critical success, which I think is fucking dumb because it requires just as much talent and vision and creativity to create a fucking movie like this as it does a drama.
Now,
Like,
you know what? I do want to bring this up since we're talking about part 2. We have discussed in the past some Michael Bay films, right? I happen to be a pretty decent sized fan of Michael Bay. You not so much, right? But there were a lot of cues taken from Michael Bay in part 2, such as the dark shots with wide lens flares, and just kind of the way the movie was shot, the way the action was kind of sequenced in. Did you get that at all?
I didn't. I think the reason I didn't get it is the thing that I hate about Michael Bay movies is the editing.
Okay.
And while this may have had some of like the lens flare and the lighting cues, I could see that. It's just to me the editing makes all the difference. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like it just does. Like again, that opening scene in 600 Ground, where it's like I legitimately felt like I was gonna have a seizure. I just don't understand like the enjoyment in that.
Yeah.
Or like the Transformers movies, where it's just like it sounds like robots fucking in the background,
Nice.
and it's just over reliant on fucking CGI, and it's all quick cuts, and it's just I don't get it. I find it's just too much. It's like a barrage. Like and these fight scenes in part 2 and part 3, even in the original, there's so much going on, but the camera never. They don't have to rely on any cheap gimmicks to add to it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because the action stands up on its own, and I think that's kind of the difference for me. That's why, like in the Raid, that's why I liked that movie so much, because the camera's just fucking there. It's just capturing the action, right? The action is doing all the heavy lifting on that. It's the same in John Wick. Like the stunts They're real stunts that are really being performed. The fucking fight scenes, they're really, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yeah.
just a different thing. It's just a different animal. And so I think that's kind of why I don't make that connection. Just for me, the editing between the two is so different. I could see the styles being somewhat similar though.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. I think first of all, part two, I love Italy. Right, that's on my bucket list as a place to travel to. So the fact that you know some of this movie took place in Italy was very eye catching as far as like the scenery and some of the big wide shots that they got. Um, Probably one of the best gunfight scenes of any movie I've ever seen when they were in the catacombs. That was just that's how you do close quarter combat. Like
Yeah.
that's how it's done, and that's
Yeah.
how it should be filmed, and that's how it should be. I grew up on movies like Rambo, First Blood, and Commando, and shit like that, where these were special forces guys that had a certain skill set that they were trained on, and like in Commando, he goes up on that beach and he's got his vest full of shit, and he throws his knife in his boot, and he's got all this. He's carrying like this abnormal load full of stuff with him, but he's dropping it off in strategic places because he's already got it mapped out that I'm going in this way and I'm coming out this way. So I'm gonna have a rocket launcher here just in case I need it because I know they're gonna know I'm here and they're gonna come chasing after me here. I'm gonna need my claymores over here. I'm gonna need this over here. He did the same thing. He goes in the tunnel with a fucking 12 gauge and an AR, and he sticks the 12 gauge up here, and he goes up a little bit further, and he puts the AR here, and he's like, okay, I'm coming out this way. I'm gonna need a gun here, and I'm gonna need a gun here. So, just the placing, the fact that they went to a different hotel that had kind of the same services as the original hotel, and they get in and he goes to the desk, and the best part of this movie is the sommelier in, and he goes in and he's talking to this fucking sommelier like he's talking about wine, and it's like, here's the Benelli M9A4. Like, okay, I think I'll take this. What about dessert? The best cutlery we have to offer. And he opens up his fucking all these knives and shit.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was great that they kind of took something from what you would actually have in a super high end hotel like that, and they just translated it over to the fucking Assassin's Creed. That now you've got, instead of a wine taster, you got somebody that knows more about fucking guns than the people making them.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. I wasn't a huge fan of the music that was playing at the coronation ceremony, but I was a huge fan of the chick he was sent there to kill. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of my favorite, it's ridiculous. Like, it's a ridiculous scene, but it is so fucking entertaining, is where him and Common have that fucking gunfight in that like subway area. You remember what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Where they're like secretly fucking, dude. I don't know what it is about that scene, but it is so fucking entertaining.
Yeah. I was sitting there watching it, and I'm like, well, if they were using 22 long rifles and they had like a fucking Osprey can on the end of it, they could actually do that. Like, that could actually be done.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, a subsonic 22 long rifle will fucking kill you. And if you were shooting that through a can, you would never hear it.
Yeah.
If the person behind you walking in a fucking airport or a subway or whatever the hell it was shooting at somebody, you'd never hear it if it was done properly. And that's another thing that goes into attention to detail in these movies, is like, I know I as just a fan of firearms, I can figure out how to make that scene happen. And the fact that they knew how to make that scene happen and make it like that could really happen. Like,
Yeah.
you get in there with a fucking, you're not going to carry a goddamn 1911 and do that. You're not going to pull it off. But something as small as a 22, yeah, you could absolutely do it.
It's just
So,
crazy. Like, I don't know what it is about it, but it's just the fact that they're secret. I don't know. It's entertaining as shit. I've never seen that in a fucking movie.
and then
I can't. I can't.
You follow that up with their fight goes into the street. They roll down this ridiculous amount of steps that probably would have killed most people. They
Yeah.
get back up, go hand to hand combat for, what feels like 2.5 hours. And then they roll through a fucking window and the guy goes, "Yo! No fucking work on Continental grounds." And they just get up and go to the fucking bar.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
The fact that they were, he wears a suit through the whole movies. He's a consummate professional that he understands the rules and he kind of sticks to them for the most part. Spoiler alert. He doesn't stick to them all the way, which gets him kicked out.
He one could say he breaks like the one rule that you can't break.
Yeah, the one rule that you should not break in this club of elite gentlemen.
Yeah, at the high table. But so you said this is your favorite out of the three.
Yes.
So with that being,
I think it could be argued that two and three would be a tie for first, because there's a lot of things I really liked about three as well.
so I'll give my reasoning for why I think three is the best when we talk about it. But I think two is a really close second.
Yeah.
I really do. But to me, there's one thing that kind of sets three apart from the other two.
You're talking about the fucking horses, aren't you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, but that is dope.
That is pretty dope.
So what would you rate part two?
I'll give part two a 4.5.
Okay. Yeah. That's where I'm at.
Okay.
We can't always agree, man. I'm giving part three a 1.
Okay. No, you're not.
Nah.
I don't know. I thought it was everything I wanted it to be and then some, because it gave me things that I didn't even know I wanted out of this movie franchise and did not hold anything back.
Yeah.
Now, since we're talking about part three, why don't you go ahead and give the details, and I'll give you the one reason that takes three out of the best movie category for me.
Okay. It's directed by the same person, starring the same people, with the inclusion of Halle Berry. I don't understand how she's still so. Came out in 2019, runtime of 131 minutes, budget of $75 million, box office return $326.7 million.
Whew.
Made some money.
Shoo.
And critical response currently holds on Rotten Tomatoes an approval rating of 90%, positive reviews with an average rating of 7.47 out of 10.
That's way low.
I agree. All three, I believe, were low. But
see, there you go.
What takes it out of the
real ratings right here?
That's right. That's right. Rotten Tomatoes, step aside.
Yeah, exactly.
You've been upgraded.
We'll take this.
So you said there's one thing that takes it out of contention for the best out of the trilogy. What would you say that is?
Okay, so
because I think we're going to agree that there is something in this movie that I'm not a huge fan of, but I don't think it takes it out of the top spot.
So the fact that, and it's weird because it's the ass end of part two and the beginning of part three are both kind of the same. You could say the same thing for both movies, right? In that I don't want to believe that I live in a world where you can have 5,000 hitmen within a 3-block radius at any given time. And it seemed like at the end of part two, the guy from the Continental that kind of expelled John Wick is, he says, he makes a phone call or something, and everybody stops and turns around and looks at him. And then he makes a movement, and they all fucking turn around and walk away. Right? That means that dude had control over all of those hundreds of people. And then cut to part 3, the beginning of part 3, the opening scene is him running through Chinatown in the rain, and everybody on the fucking street is a goddamn assassin that has one of these 1964 Nokia phones that says, hey, he's fucking 10 million for his head. Let's go get him.
Yeah.
Right? I just, that's the only thing that I really can't believe. In a movie full of shit that is almost unbelievable, that's the one thing I struggle with.
I see what you're saying. That doesn't necessarily bother me because I think that due to the fact that one did such a good job of establishing building a world, to me this is it's a fairy tale.
Well, yeah,
right?
Of course.
I don't think it's meant to be set in a realistic setting. Right? I think it's meant to be that it's clearly a fictitious world. So, in that framework, I can accept, okay, that there are people that fucking are paying each other with a bunch of gold coins, and every other person you meet on the street is a fucking hitman. Like, once you, like, if you're not trying to make it a realistic movie in that regard, then I think, okay, it's fine. Just like I wouldn't knock Star Wars, like, well, we don't have interstellar travel yet, so you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that they do a really good job of establishing the framework of the world and that it's not real life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I can accept that. The thing that I think knocks this movie down a bit, and it doesn't knock it down for me, but I could see where somebody could argue that it does, is there's a section of the movie that drags. And it's when he's like in the desert. That little 10, 15 minute of movie drags.
See,
like it just, to me, like it felt unnecessary. I get that he had to visit the guy. You know, I get that. But it just seemed like it was something that could have been done in a fucking fifth of the time.
I don't know, but I also look at it like this, because I can see that, right? But the buildup of all of that is kind of, it's all there to build up the drama, right?
Yeah.
The guy tells him, you walk until you think you're dead, and then you keep walking, and the dude will find you. And it's like, in order for you to believe that he walked until he was fucking dead and then kept walking, he's got to walk till he fucking dies. And I think they did a good enough job of making it long enough to be believable, but it was shot well enough to where, you know, the colors and the motion and the stuff like that, like, it all made sense, right?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the one part of the movie where I could see somebody saying, well, I wasn't a fan of that sequence.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be like, well, you're wrong.
Well, I can tell you this. Before I even set foot in that desert, I would have drank Halle Berry's spit water.
Oh, yeah.
All day.
I wouldn't even have to be in a desert, dude.
Yeah, all day.
But it's, so if you look at the, like, run times on each of the movies, so the first one was 101 minutes. The second one was 122 minutes. And then the third one is the longest at 131 minutes. And I think, again, that's, if you were to cut that scene down, you'd be right at the 2 hour mark. And yeah. I just think it would have flowed a little bit better. I think,
but but honestly, if that's the worst gripe we've got about this movie, it's doing good.
That's literally it. Like, yeah. And the flip side is that scene does further contribute to the idea of this being a fantasy. It's a very like fantastical element of the story, I guess.
I don't
I
think
don't
that's
know
a
if
word.
fantastical. I'm tired,
I don't think that's a word.
but it's very fantasy-ish, that
Yeah.
whole scene, where walk until you can't walk anymore and then keep walking. And like it's very fantasy. Like that's a fucking story, right? So I think it also does contribute to that. So I guess there's a flip side to it. But literally that's my only complaint with the movie. I think the action in 3 is the best action of the series. Like that opening fucking chase sequence that goes into those fights where they go into a fucking museum
Oh
and they
yeah.
start using antique weapons on each other. The fucking knife fight.
Oh
That
yeah.
whole opening sequence is amazing.
Dude, and I'm gonna say this. You know, I'm a huge fan of horror movies, slashers, serial killer movies, stuff like that. The fact that they went that graphic with some of the violence, like the fact that he stuck a knife in a dude's eye and then jammed it in, like that's serious stuff on screen, man. Or
Yeah.
the fact that he throws a fucking hatchet across the room and it just waylays into some dude's dome.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking graphic, dude. For a movie that's gonna be for the masses,
Yeah.
essentially. That's pretty gore, dude.
And then it goes from that to a scene where he legitimately uses a horse as a weapon, which is amazing, to where he's riding down the street on a horse while being chased by fucking hitmen on motorcycles. Like it's just that whole scene is John Wick turned up to like 11.
Yeah. With the
Right?
knob broke off.
It sets the fucking pace and then it never lets up. Like you get to the action scene where John Wick and Halle Berry have that shootout. That's one of the best shootouts in the series.
Yeah.
Right? And then with the incorporation of the dogs.
I don't know, man. I still think the catacomb scene in part 2 was better.
Well, and it may definitely.
Halle Berry
definitely
only makes things better.
Yeah, you definitely have to put it in the top shootouts in the
Oh
whole
yeah,
movie.
in the whole franchise, absolutely.
Easily. So you have all this action, right? The guy, I think his name's Zero. I think that's his name. Pretty sure. The fact that he's a badass, kind of at first, and then he turns out to be this weird, hilarious.
Yeah, I'm so glad to meet you.
Yeah, it was hilarious, but it was also kind of cool because it was like this guy fucking is a fan, and he's just kind of wanting to see if he can beat him.
Yeah,
that's kind of all he's trying to do, right? And then John Wick is such a stone cold badass that he doesn't even give a shit. He fucking kills him, and he doesn't even really feel bad about it. He's like, fuck you, you're in my way. So you have that element of it, which was really cool. And the final fucking shootout is insane.
The best part of that, right, is the fact that he realizes this custom made suit that I have that stops bullets with zero penetration. They got the same shit, except they've got it covering them from head to toe. There's 2 weak points, visor and right behind the neck. So he's literally running through, gunning people until they stop or fall because it fucking hurts. And he's pulling their visor back and double tapping them, doom, or rolling their fucking head back and shooting their spinal cord. Like, that's serious, man. Yeah, that's serious business.
Yeah, and then it goes from that shootout, then it goes to some more hand-to-hand combat, so it doesn't get stale, right? And then to top all that off, you have the twist, which I don't know if you saw coming. The first time I viewed it, I didn't see it coming. Where
to be honest with you, when he came out of the elevator and said parlay, I knew at that point either one of the two in this shit now scenarios was going to happen. I, to be honest with you, thought it was going to be John Wick shoots the old man.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be it.
But then they flip it.
Yeah.
Which I didn't see coming.
And I was like, hold up. This dude, so after he shoots him the first time, I'm like, what the fuck? And then I start thinking, this guy knows that he's got a bulletproof suit on. He knows he does. So he doesn't shoot him in the head. He shoots him in non-vital areas covered by this fucking super fabric, right? And then when he falls over the ledge, I'm like, oh, well, there goes the fucking suit angle.
Yeah.
And he hits the ground. I'm like, yep, that he's fucking toasted. There's no, you don't come back from that.
Yeah. But he does.
Well, apparently
because it's a fantasy.
Yeah.
But, and that's, so the twist I didn't see coming, which I thought was really cool, because that's kind of the first time there's been a twist in the movies, right? Like the first one, he's going to kill the guy that killed his dog. Like that's going to happen. And you know that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
The second one, he's gonna end up breaking the rules and killing the guy. You know that's going to happen. The third one, I had no idea that the fucking guy was going to end up shooting John Wick, right?
To be
For
honest,
a second,
in the second one, I didn't think he was going to kill the guy.
Oh, I did.
Because he totally, when they came through the window in the first one, or earlier in the movie, he got up and he walked off to the bar with the dude that literally was just shooting at him. So I thought maybe he was going to carry that over.
Yeah, but I think that they established that those two guys kind of had a mutual respect for each other. It was just business.
Yeah.
But he fucking hated the other guy.
Yeah.
Like he legitimately hated
Well,
because
he burned his fucking house down.
Right. Like the other guy too. Yeah, the other guy killed his dog and he fucking murdered him. You think he's gonna let the guy that just fucking destroy his house and try to kill him in it and not fucking get him back? Like, I don't give a fuck where you're at. I'm gonna fucking kill you like that. So I kind of expected it, but I didn't expect the ending in John Wick 3, and the fact that at the end you have Lawrence Fishburne revealed not to be dead.
Yeah,
right?
And I totally thought he was gone.
I thought so too. And then you have John Wick, and he asks him like, "Are you angry?" And he's like, "I'm fucking angry." And then it ends there.
The word
and it's
was
like,
pissed.
Yeah, the fact that after 3 movies, you're able to leave it on a cliffhanger, and it makes me like excited to see part 4. That's an accomplishment,
dude. I legitimately, as soon as he said that and it cut to credits, I was like, fuck you, man. And I started Googling John Wick 4. When does it come out? Is there a trailer yet? Is there any kind of fucking information? And there's best guesses at best, right? And at best. So what I think we should do is let's go ahead and rate this one, and then let's give a best guess as to where we go.
Okay.
In part 4.
Okay.
Because there's nothing been released other than the director said that he would definitely come back, and Keanu Reeves said he is 100% down for a part 4.
Yeah.
So that's all we know for fact right now. Everything else is speculation.
So I would give John Wick Part 3 a 5.
Okay.
I think this series really mirrors Mission Impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mission Impossible, I think each one got better, except for Part 2. I'm talking from Part 3 on. Part 3 on, each one got better. And I think that's what John Wick did. Like, they established the world in Part 1. They expanded on it in Part 2. Huh?
You didn't like Mission Impossible 1 and 2?
I mean, I think 1 was good, but it's nothing like 3, 4, 5, or 6.
No.
It's kind of a separate thing. 2, I thought was trash. I wasn't a fan. I think, like, the series of Mission Impossible as it is now really started at Part 3.
Okay.
Right, with Philip Seymour Hoffman, the Rabbit's Foot, all that shit. It establishes Ethan, his wife, and all that shit. Like, it establishes the continuing storyline. So, for me, I look at Mission Impossible as 3, 4, 5, and 6, however many there are now. Right? And
7, Part 7, oddly enough, comes out in 2021.
Yeah. Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
But I see those, each one of those movies, I think, got better. That's the way I look at John Wick. John Wick 1 establishes the world, does a great job at it. Part 2 expands on it. Part 3 throws everything.
Yeah.
It just everything, it throws everything at the wall, and 99.9% of it sticks. And then, so yeah, and then I'll give my prediction on part four after you give your rating.
Okay, so since we don't do 0.25 increments, um, I'm gonna err on the side of this was a fucking awesome movie, and I'm gonna go 4.5 on this one. If I could go in quarters, I would give this one a 4.25 because I think part two, in my opinion, was slightly better. But because it is such a fucking awesome movie, start to finish, left to right, back to front, I'm gonna go 4.5. I didn't get that. No, because I wasn't talking to you. So this one gets a 9.5. So it followed the order of progression. Number one got an 8, number 2 got a 9, 3 got a 9.5.
Yeah. Which is the way that I view them. Obviously, you would swap those two around, but the difference between a 9 and a 9.5 is pretty menial.
Yeah.
So my prediction for part 4 is John Wick all out war versus whatever his name is. I think that, and you talked about how, when he made the call and he had all these people, that he was controlling basically or in charge of, it's going to be that times like 1,000, right? Because John Wick is going to be gunning for that guy. He had all those people turn around ready to fucking, try to make the hit, and they weren't even enemies at that point, right? John Wick is legitimately at the end of 3. I see 4 picking up right at the end of 3, right? Just like the rest of them, it's going to pick up right at that point, and it's going to be John Wick pissed the fuck off and going everything he can back at that guy.
Okay, so here's what I think. I think that I'm going to go completely opposite end of the spectrum. I think John Wick is, cut to first scene. He's laying on the floor in front of Lawrence Fishburne. He tells him I'm fucking pissed. And then the concierge shows up. Right? Because part 3 ends with the girl, the adjudicator, walking out of the Continental. Right? I think the concierge shows up and says it worked like a charm. And the reason I say that is because you have established a personal, almost more than a friendship, more like a brotherhood, right? John Wick understood that he broke the rules and he shed blood in Continental property, right? So he knew that Winston had no fucking other choice than to excommunicate him, right? But if you fast forward through the movie to where they're up there talking to the adjudicator after he kills the little fucking Asian guy, she looks at him and says, I take it you're not going to step down. And he says, no, I don't think so. She looks at John Wick and she says, and I take it you're not going to put a bullet in his head. He says, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. That right there established to me that at that point they had either an understanding, or at some point between there and the end of the movie, there was some sort of plan that it would work like that it would go in that direction, right? That John knew he was going to have to take a hard fall for Winston to get all of his, to get the hotel back in order and get it back to where he had the accommodations to get to the table. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see John Wick come back. You're going to have Lawrence Fishburne's crew of homeless people team up with the Continental Hotel New York, and John Wick, and I think they're probably going to have all out war with the High Table.
Okay.
Because he cut his finger off, so he knows the High Table's coming for him. He knows that because he made a pact with the one who sits above the High Table.
Yeah.
And he didn't honor it. So
yeah.
I think he already knows the High Table's coming after him. He already knows the guy above the High Table's coming after him. So he's going to link up with anybody he can make allies with, which is why they took him to Lawrence Fishburne. And I don't know, man. I that's the way I see it going, that there's going to be an epic fucking war in part 4.
I think, I mean, it's got to be an epic war. The only monkey wrench I see in that angle is I don't get why he would say he's pissed. If it was all part of the plan, why is he pissed? I think that John Wick thought that if he made a stand and he was able to dispatch of all the people they sent after him, right, they would kind of just have to be like, fuck it. Like, it's not worth the loss. We're throwing bodies at this guy at this point. Like, if we keep this up, we're not going to have anybody else to do our fucking work. He thought if he made a stand at the Continental, and he thought Winston was on his side. And Winston I think Winston kind of at first was on his side. And then he realized at some point, for me to keep my position, which is the thing he cares most about, I'm gonna have to let this guy take the hit. I can see it playing both ways. It's just the only reason I don't see your prediction working is because of the state that he's in at the end, where he's pissed.
Yeah, but where it kind of gives it away is the girl looks down the street and she sees that John Wick's gone. Clearly, he's not laying in the street where he should be. She goes back in and she goes, where's Wick? Well, he's laying in the street. Well, no, he's not. And he gets this smirk on his face. Like, I knew he wouldn't be there.
But that could also be a callback to the first movie where Russian guy sends a bunch of people to kill Wick, and the whole time he knows that they're not going to be able to fucking do it. It doesn't mean he didn't want him dead. Right? It could just be that
I don't know. I just feel like collusion is the better way to...
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just, like I said, the only reason I'm having trouble seeing that is just because of the way 3 ends. Where John Wick's pissed. Why is he pissed? If it was a plan,
well, he's pissed because they sent all those fucking people at him. That he's pissed.
But I mean, he knew that was going to happen.
The High Table is coming for his head.
But he knew that was going to happen. That's what he went back to the Continental for.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, I mean, he knew he was going to make a stand. Like, he knew they were all coming for him, and he knew that if he made a stand against the High Table again, after pledging fealty to the man that sits above the High Table, that he's fucked. So, I mean, to me, like, all of that was known. The only thing that was unknown was the same thing that was unknown to the audience, right? Was that Winston was going to fucking turn on him, right? Because I think that they've kind of shown that the thing that Winston cares about most is the position that he has. Like, that's the thing he cares about most. That's why he excommunicated Wick in the first place. Right? Like, he tried to do it as best he could without kind of stabbing him in the back.
He really had no choice. And that's also why he wanted to keep his position. That's also why he gave him an hour to run. Right,
but if the position wasn't the most important thing, right?
But if the position was the most important thing, he would have done what he had to do and killed Wick on the spot when he shot the Italian guy in the parlor. That's the exact reason that he got told he had 7 days to get his affairs in order, is because you should have killed him on the spot, for breaking the rules in the Continental. This is your hotel. You should have taken matters into your own hand, and you should have eliminated the problem immediately after it happened. And you didn't do that. And on top of that, you gave him an hour to fucking run before you excommunicated him. So he was being removed from that position because he helped John Wick.
Right. But I think in his mind, he thought he got away with it. I think in his mind, he was thinking it was like a gray area. Like if he broke the rules state he has to be excommunicated. As long as I excommunicate him, I'm good. And he's like, look, you're a friend. I'll give you an hour, then you're gone. And what I'm getting at is, so in his mind, he's doing what he has to do to keep the position of power, and he's trying to help Wick out at the same time. But when it comes down to it, which one does he place more value in? It was keeping the position. Because if it wasn't keeping the position and it was helping John Wick out, he just wouldn't have fucking excommunicated him.
Yeah, but he's also not a stupid guy, and he understands that if he double crosses Wick,
yeah, but he did it in the end.
And that's what I'm saying. I don't think he did. I think you'll see a cutback scene to where they're in the vault, and they come up with some sort of fucking plan for how this all, because they went back and forth into the vault 3 or 4 times. If he was going to double cross Wick, he would have just fucking closed the vault door and left him out there.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I don't know.
Because
it could go either way.
Then the blood's not on his hands. Then he could say, hey, you got shot by a fucking dude with a motorcycle helmet on. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. I don't know. It could go either way. I'm curious.
Yeah. I'm excited.
I mean, I'll be happy with either fucking way.
Yeah.
I just want to see John Wick kick some more ass.
Yep. I agree. Speaking of kicking ass, this has been a kick-ass show.
Yeah, this was fun.
So, yeah, I think we'll do it again next week. What do you think?
I'm down.
All right, so Facebook group, leave us some suggestions. There's a link to the Facebook group down there in the description. Leave us some suggestions. Let us know what you want to see us talk about. And, yeah, we'll catch you next time. Steven's going to go get some sleep.
You goddamn right. Later, guys.